What's going on, everybody? It's time to talk about the KEEL Infrastructure Q2 earnings. So as we've all known, or as we all know, it wasn't really a big boom, right? KEEL Infrastructure came out with its earnings yesterday and yes, provided some updates on like the Moses Lake construction and stuff like that. But it's like I was saying leading up in my other videos is if they don't announce a deal, the expectations are already mega high for KEEL Infrastructure because of what Ben has said in the past about how confident they are with these deals by the end of summer. There was no deal announced, right? And we're going to kind of go over some of the slides here and kind of give you guys my take on everything that happened. And I apologize, I was traveling over the weekend, so I wasn't really able to make any videos, but we're back and we're back at it. So, but anyway, just my overview, my overview first before we dive into any of the slides or anything like that. So as I was listening to the earnings call, the anticipation was, hopefully they announce a deal. They didn't, right? But, and let me start off by saying this, my thesis isn't broken. I'm still holding KEEL. In fact, I actually doubled down and bought some leap options, and I'll, pop that up on screen too. I posted it in the Discord and showed everybody. But I did jump into some leap options as well today. So the thesis for KEEL, in my opinion, is not broken, right? I've told you guys I'm giving them to the end of the year. And in fact, probably more than that, because of the leap options that I got, they expire in 2028. Because my thesis behind those are, they say they're going to, have some data centers up and running by 2027 or the end of 2027. So I bought some options expiring January 2028. Because if that thesis plays out, these options are going to do very, very well. So that was my thesis behind those options. But overall, I did tell you guys coming into this earnings, if they don't announce a deal, at least say something about, the construction at Moses Lake, because it was obvious to all of us after looking at a lot of the satellite imagery, that something was going on. And in fact, there is, right? They have demolished everything, and we'll go over the slides and kind of give you guys the breakdown. But they've, decommissioned all of their Bitcoin mining. They have tore down the Moses Lake site completely. There's equipment on site. Even some infrastructure has already been delivered to the site, and they're working with Vertiv to, kind of build out their infrastructure stack. So anyway, let's pop some. I'm going to be reading off the phone to kind of, not mispronounce anything. But let's go over some of the slides and just kind of give you guys a, quick update of what they come out with if you guys didn't watch or listen to the earnings call. So the first slide I'm going to pop up here is the 2026 priorities. And number one, advancing permitting and commercialization. The execution to date is clear visibility on permit completion and multiple potential customers engaged at each site. So one thing I will say about this, when they were talking about their lease deals and the potential customers for their lease agreements, is so what he said when he come out, he said announcing a lease deal isn't a trophy. They're not trying to make a big headline and just rush it to market, and it's not a trophy, which I can kind of understand that. But they're in the position now to where investors are really, you got all these other companies in the space in the same sector announcing deals, getting shit done, right? And in the meantime, you have KEEL Infrastructure saying, these lease deals aren't a trophy. It's a 15-year commitment, and we want to, make sure we don't cap the upside by jumping in it too early, which I can understand to an extent. But there comes a time where investors are going to demand deals, right? Because you need these deals for revenue. As we've seen in some of the numbers, which was expected, they're losing money. They're bleeding money. Yes, they have about $850 million on their, of cash, but they're bleeding money. They're losing money. And a lot of that is due to the fact of Bitcoin price going down, them scaling back on their, basically decommissioning all of their Bitcoin mining. And, so, they're losing money, right? So they need, yes, they have some runway with the capital that they have, but they desperately need future revenue, right? So they don't have much runway. Yes, they could do it for a couple of quarters and such, but if they don't announce a deal by the end of the year, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a problem because it's not sustainable. Either they're going to announce a deal, or they're going to start diluting the shit out of shareholders, which is something that I'm not very much a fan of. I get it in the early stages, but, so we'll see what happens with that. Moving on to number 2. So it says securing expansion capacity, pipeline growth for 2028 and beyond remains key priority. And the execution today is advanced HPC AI development at Sherbrooke and detailed load studies in PA. So they have done a lot of the load studies in Pennsylvania, and they also said by the end of the year, December to January, that they're going to have some meaningful updates on pipeline expansion. So that's something we can, look out for, come to the end of the year and early 2027. Number 3, delivering energized infrastructure, bringing megawatts online as soon as possible. Execution to date, working with proven partners to deliver energized megawatts on the timelines our customers need. So one thing I want to say is, when he was talking about the lease deals, whether he's a very good liar or he's being truthful, that they have very interested partners in active negotiations for all 3 sites. So that's Moses Lake, Sharon, Panther Creek, etc. He also said that some of these customers were interested in all 3 sites, because there was a Q&A at the end as one of the guys asked, are potential customers, interested in all 3 sites? And Ben said there was, but he wants to keep them kind of separated. So we'll see where that goes. Ben he seemed very, very confident in these active negotiations. So, his tune has changed a little bit from past interviews to where now he seems like they're very deep in negotiations, and he's pretty confident that, some are going to come true. So we'll see what happens, right? There has to be, guys, I'm telling you this now. There has to be a deal signed by the end of 2026. There has to be. If there's not, I don't know if I can continue to hold KEEL Infrastructure. They're bleeding money. They have no incoming revenue. They decommissioned all of their Bitcoin mining, and they're trying to jump into one of the most capital extensive sectors in AI data center development there is. Yes, they have some runway, but come to the end of the year, if no lease deals have been signed, we're gonna have to question some things and see where things go. So yes, they got 2 quarters left. So there's 2 quarters left to execute and get on the right path. But it's a very hard pill to swallow. I'm staying optimistic, right? I'm staying positive. I'm staying optimistic with KEEL Infrastructure. But it's a very hard pill to swallow when you see all the other companies around them announcing lease deals, nice, good lease deals, multiple times. It's hard to wrap your head around. But, I see the vision, and I see what's happening. And there is progress being made. It's not like they're just coming on here shooting you an idea and no progress is being made. There is progress being made. They have completely destroyed Moses Lake and have, equipment on site. Infrastructure has already been delivered on site, right? And at Sharon, the transformers have already been delivered on site. So they're not doing this for nothing. Yes, they might be taking their time. And I understand, he's saying, I'm not going to cap the upside by jumping into stuff too early, blah, blah, blah. It's a 15-year commitment on trust and credit and blah, blah, blah. I get that. But there comes a time where you don't have any revenue and you're bleeding money and you're bleeding cash out of your ears. You have to have a lease deal signed, and you have to have a proper roadmap forward with customers, right? So I'm optimistic still, but, come 2026, no deal signed, something's got to change. Moving on. So I'm going to pop up here. So this is the Q2 progress on the Moses Lake site. So you can see Q2 progress, zoning approved, land development and environmental permits in progress, BTC mining fully decommissioned, previous building on site fully demolished, and development with Vertiv in progress. So they're actively going at things at Moses Lake, and they did say that Moses Lake is potentially going to be the first site that's up and running in 2027, which it shows there's a lot of activity over there. And they're really, dove into that head first. They've really made progress at Moses Lake pretty quickly. And that's what leads me to believe that there is a deal coming at Moses Lake very, very soon. Because you're not going to build a data center for just to stay empty, right? You're not going to have all this power just sitting there with no customers. Like, there's going to be a deal signed soon. There's got to be. And I also want to point out something that in their slide deck that nobody really caught. And I'll show you guys that here in a second. But it's pretty interesting of how they worded it. And I just want to get your guys' thoughts on it too and see what y'all think. But that was Moses Lake. So moving on to Sharon, the Q2 progress is zoning and land development approved, environmental permits in progress, BTC mining fully decommissioned, and transformers delivered on site. So Sharon also, already has infrastructure delivered on site. There's stuff happening. And across all of their sites so far, it says that, Bitcoin mining's fully been decommissioned. So they're not bringing any revenue from Bitcoin mining whatsoever. So I'm going to pop this up on screen. So it's the portfolio overview, de-risk, and scalable. So if we look under Moses Lake here and go all the way down to the bottom where it says notes, right? It says $128 million agreement with Vertiv Group for critical infrastructure. And then under that it says close to hyperscaler data center hub. Right? Close to hyperscaler data center hub. They got to be talking about Amazon. Right? They're close to the hyperscaler data center hub, which is Amazon right down the street. That makes me fully believe that Amazon is going to expand into Moses Lake. I was reading over it and just glossing. I was like, wait a minute. Why would they even mention that? Like, what's the purpose of even mentioning that? There's no point, really. And that's what kind of got me thinking, Amazon's right across the street from them. Maybe Amazon's going to, potentially take over the 18 megawatts at Moses Lake. It's a potential, right? And it's something small. I'm speculating, but I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to share it with you guys as well. But anyway, that really goes over the slide deck, guys. I mean, listen, it's like I told you guys leading up to the earnings, right? The numbers are going to suck. The numbers are going to absolutely blow. And they did, right? They missed revenue. They missed whatever. But that, I wanted to get people's expectations in order because I told you, that's not the important thing, right? We know the numbers are going to suck. We know they're going to miss or whatever. The important part was the updates that they delivered and the remarks they gave. And while I am not fully satisfied, I'm not fully upset either, right? Because I did say in my past videos, look, if they come out with just construction updates and, with good announcements on, good progress in construction, good announcements on at least what they're doing with their lease deals, then I'd be happy, right? And they just barely did that. So I can't fully be upset, but I'm not fully satisfied either, right? Hopefully, I'm going to trust and take Ben at his word. Hopefully, they do have active negotiations with people that want their sites. I will say that their data center sites are very premium sites, right? They're going to be very sought after sites. That's what makes me think that there's no way that there's just nobody interested in it. No way. And because, like they said in their notes, Moses Lake is right beside a hyperscaler data center hub. It's right beside it. They have premium locations. Their stuff in Pennsylvania, premium locations with huge expansion potential in the future, right? And that was a big talking point in the earnings call as well, was their expansion and, do they plan to expand? And they did say about Moses Lake, they were asked if they were going to try to expand any more power into Moses Lake, and they said no, that they were going to keep it at the 18 megawatt gross and just keep it where it's at for now. So that was interesting as well. So Moses Lake is going to be one singular package of 18 megawatts gross that, they're just going to keep a small data center up at first, and that's going to be the first one to market. So all eyes are on Moses Lake, right? All eyes are on Moses Lake. That's where all the activity's at. That's where all the construction's taking place right now, at least. And that's where there's visible evidence of satellite imagery that this is being done. we'll see what happens, guys. That's really my update. You know, I was kind of let down a little bit, but again, I'm not fully upset about it because I went over my thesis with you guys. I've told you guys what my expectations were. And to be honest, I'm surprised we haven't seen KEEL Infrastructure drop harder than it has, right? Which is interesting. So, and it's like I said in the beginning of the video, I did, and this just goes to show you and should go to prove to you guys that I'm serious about what I'm saying when I'm telling you that my thesis hasn't been broken. I just jumped into 2028 leap options on KEEL Infrastructure. It's a risky remove, right? It's a little bit of leverage because of how options work, but if what they say is true about 2027 and how they should have, you know, a couple of data centers up and running by 2027, then I think it's a no-brainer to hold some leap options for 2028. So we'll see, right? It didn't change my KEEL share position. I still hold my, you know, all my KEEL shares. I just, you know, put a little bit of leverage on at the end to see, hopefully we can make this thing work. So anyway, guys, let me know y'all's thoughts down below. I know there's going to be a lot of upset people, a lot of negative people, and, you know, I can understand it. I get it. You know, I fully understand. But, you know, if you're in KEEL Infrastructure for the right reasons and you can still see the vision and you still think they can do what I think they can do, then let me know in the comments. Let me know if y'all are continuing to hold. Have y'all doubled down, bought any more shares? I know a lot of us are probably out of money. We've been buying the dip for the past couple of weeks. There's no more money to put in, right? So let me know y'all's thoughts down below, guys. Again, I apologize I wasn't able to go live for the event. I was traveling, coming back home, so we weren't able to do that. But hopefully in the future we can, you know, get some stuff set up and be able to cover this thing more formally, and more information, you know, can come out quicker and we don't have to wait till the day after. But, you know, I kind of wanted to see the dust settle and kind of see what everybody else was saying about KEEL. And before I, you know, made a video, I will say I watched Steven's video yesterday and he was pretty upset. You know, I think it was a little overdone, in my opinion. You know, he was acting like somebody died, but like I said, I get it. I can understand it. But, you know, you can't, your expectations have to be set. People set their expectations on speculation, and that's a problem, right? You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't set expectations on what you think should happen. You have to set your expectations on facts, right? And the facts have always been, hey, we're going to announce deals by the end of summer. It's not the end of summer, right? So we'll see what happens, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Till next time, y'all stay safe. Don't panic, sell your bags, and we'll see you on the next.